Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller, and I have a feeling that November is absolutely going to fly by. Like I feel like my entire mindset has been so focused on November 9th. Like that has been the date in my head, the thing that I have been working for since like July, August, just trying to get our 1-year anniversary together. And it's done. It's over. And then I feel like I've had my head down and I've just been like focusing on this thing and trying to get it done and like coordinating everything and just making sure that it's a really great experience for all the attendees. And I lift my head up and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are actually almost halfway done with November. That is insane. And now it's full speed ahead. And I am just trying to rely on the like routines that I've put in place in previous weeks, right? Like things that I constantly work on and do. And even like going through photos from this past weekend, like I had, 2 of my very good friends take like candids behind the scenes things with their iPhones. I had a photographer for the event, so she uploaded photos, and the one thing that I noticed was my hair is like kind of long and it's no longer considered like a short haircut anymore. And I realize it's because it's been so many months since April. And I feel like this entire summer was so formative and that I accomplished and did so much. And as Brianna Chicken Fried said, you know, she equates her hair with like a period of time. I've been so deep in the, Brianna Chicken Fry, Zach Bryan, entire saga. Okay. I feel like the last week in the song that constantly played in my head was, the original roast, original music that is no longer up because of like the record label or whatever. But the chorus like played constantly in my head. I kid you not, all last week. And I was like, the one where it names the different dating apps where it's like Tinder, Bumble, Raya. Oh my gosh, that just hit so hard. But anyway, she shared on Instagram, she was like, my hair, like off to go get my hair done, because one, she said she wasn't allowed to touch or dye or do anything with her hair, and so she finally like felt free enough. She wanted to change something, but also it's remembering your hair in a certain period of time. And I feel like I did my big chop in April because one, it was like the start of summer and I felt like I had grown so much in the past 4 years, just with like graduating college and struggling through, some like mental health things and just like really releasing the idea I had for myself, and now like moving forward and feeling healthy and feeling good about like where my brain is at. And I had just gone through yoga teacher training and I was ready for the summer. My hair had a little bit of damage from bleach. Obviously, like when you bleach your hair, it's going to have that. And so I just wanted to like whack it off, to be honest. So I trimmed her down. And now looking back, I haven't really went to the hair salon all summer, really haven't had the time, and having like a low maintenance haircut was like really, really helpful. But in these photos, I was like, man, like it's getting to the point where it's almost where it was. Like it almost has the length. And I know by like January, February, I'll have like the same long hair that I had previously, which on one hand was so eye-opening because I felt like my hair did not grow very fast. And I had this mindset of if I cut my hair, it won't grow back. I'll just have short hair forever. I'll feel so ugly or whatever, just for how it looks on my face and things. And so it was like this really big like change that I did by cutting my hair. And I know hair is just hair, but when you tie any sort of worth to your hair or how you look, whatever. So it was like a big step for me in that way. And now I'm like, oh gosh, like, okay, it does not take as long as I thought it was, but also like stress plays a part in that. When I previously cut my hair back in like 2017, I cut it like a very, very short kind of look, shorter than I did this last April, and feeling like it took forever to grow back. And I also felt like it wasn't my choice because my hair was so damaged, like just really not great at all. And so it definitely was like an eye-opening experience. And now, like, as my hair is longer, I don't think I will go back to a short haircut in this, like, in the near future. I'm never going to say like I won't ever cut it again, but like being able to have that moment in time, having that, the moment, the months in 2024 of saying, you know what, I cut my hair short, and I liked it and I accomplished so much and I did this and I did that, and being able to like use the photos as like a pinpoint. But yeah, it's crazy how quickly time can pass. And also like the things that you thought would be a big deal, like if you really don't draw any sort of attention to it, not positive, not negative, like my hair, like I was indifferent about it. I was getting my gloss, which was great. And then, it is what it is. But I noticed that from this past weekend, I was like, oh my gosh, my hair has grown so much. I cannot believe it's November. We only have 2 more months left, which is crazy, more like a month and a half. And I just know that it's going to go so fast. I feel like I had been climbing the hill of my Golden Gala and just focusing all of my attention and making sure things were in the planning process and getting my website up. Like there were so many monumental things that I did this year. And people say like it's important to do one huge life changing thing each year. That way, when you like look back at a year, like in 2020, I got married. In 2019, I was in college. I ran for homecoming queen. 2018, like, you know what I'm saying? Like having something to really differentiate between the years. And it's also like really cool. They were talking it in the aspect of like having many adventures. And so if you have the mindset of, okay, one big adventure every single year, and then like many or like a smaller adventure each quarter, then it can really make sure that you're not living like this mundane life, but instead like, okay, like you're not waiting for the vacation, you're not waiting for the big thing, but instead like you have these little micro mini experiences to keep you like positive and looking forward to life and happy and things, right? And so I always like keep that in my head of what did I accomplish this year? How did it make me like a better person? Which areas do I need to like work on for the next year and things? And I really and truly like to have our 1 year anniversary. Like that was definitely the peak of my week, right? So my meetup club, my little social club in Kansas City, I have like 2 to 3 to 4 sometimes meetups every single month. And I have been like just wanting the connection aspect. I wanted to connect people. I myself felt like very, very lonely, and that I didn't have anybody to rely on or anybody to text at a random time. And just having that network, having that community is so important. And I think back to, you know, when I didn't routinely see a friend, or where I didn't plan fun events to just like have these many experiences, having something to look forward to. And for myself, I was so proud of the moment, right? Like I wanted a celebration. And what better way than to hang out with the best people in the world for an evening, right? But when you are doing something you've never done before, it's going to stretch you. It's going to push you. And like learning about website design or making sure that my automations were going to work. I learned so much in the last 2 months. I feel like everything else kind of fell by the wayside. Like this was my focus. This was what I was working on. And even before that, I think really and truly it started in August, like where I was really pounding the pavement, trying to get things accomplished, trying to get things done. And I in some ways feel like I got a little bit of my life back. And I knew this, like looking forward back in August, I was like, okay, I need to set this up. I need to start having, an email list that I can send emails to in regards to the event. I need to have a pre-sale list. I need the sponsors and like reaching out to people to be at the event, or having the photographer, having the beverages, like all of the things. And I knew that once I got over this crust, once I got over November 9th, that it would be like smooth sailing, that I would be having so much fun. I wouldn't really have to worry about anything anymore. And I feel the relief. Like I seriously, on Sunday, I did nothing. Well, I did things, but like it was restorative things. And when I say like I didn't do anything, I mean like nothing that was pressurizing. I woke up when I wanted to. I had my coffee. I moseyed around. Most of it was trying to just unpack the aftermath of the gala. So a day of, on Saturday, I was like, all right, I had a couple things that I need to do. And last minute things are not super good for your mental health. It's not really good for your productivity. And I wanted to avoid the overwhelm. I really, really, really wanted to be in the moment. I didn't want to be stressed out. When I look back at like my wedding, I was stressed out in so many different ways. And I didn't get to enjoy it to the extent that I wish that I got to, because I was doing last minute things, or because the pressure was on me. And in so many ways, I took very hard learning points from my wedding day, and I made sure that I avoided that in all the events that I planned, but specifically for the gala. So like having people who were in charge, who it was not just me, was really helpful. So I had Madison and Alexis, like I said, take behind the scenes, but I also had like a VIP dinner. So before the event, I had 10 spots to host girls to have supper beforehand, right? I was thinking kind of like a pre-prom, like before prom, you went out to eat. And so I had the 10 tickets, and then I talked to Madison and Alexis separately. I was like, hey, I'm going to need some help during this event, because if I compare it to my wedding, I did not rely or ask for help for the people around me, the people who loved me and would have loved to help out, right? Like I did not use them in the ways that I could have used them, right? So I said, I will need you guys to do the dinner. I'm going to pop over and I'll set up, because the thing about the venue was I had to pay hourly. So it was not like a flat rate. And then where I could like set up in the morning and then enjoy it in the evening. No, it opened. I started the rental at 5, and then it ended at 9. So I needed to set up 5 to 6. 6 o'clock, I was going to have people like start checking in, lining up, and then I would open up the doors and then they would come into the venue. So for me, I was hustling around trying to like set up the venue. And I knew this. So part of my morning, like waking up for the gala, I knew that there's only so much I could do, and I really tried to keep myself as centered and as calm as possible. So when I woke up on Saturday, day of the gala, I woke up, I had my coffee, and I hopped onto the computer because I wanted to, there's a couple of things that I needed to do for the next event. And I had the idea to do a retreat come January. I've had so many people talk to me about when I was doing another retreat, or, just something that was more intimate, but also like more of a weekend. So I thought like having a little craft and cooking weekend would be awesome. So I looked at a couple different Vrbo sites like the week before, and now I need to really make the decision if I was going to do it or not. So I had to build out the website page. I had to have the automations complete because I learned so much from the gala about like, if they purchase this ticket, doesn't necessarily mean that they've subscribed to my email list. And if they don't subscribe, I cannot email the ticket attendees like updates for the event. So that was so stressful for the Golden Gala. And I was like, all right, gotta have this and gotta make sure that I can add them to the group chat, gotta make sure that they have access to a packing list. And this time I did like a PDF. Like I've learned so much from my past events, and I use that as a stepping stone. So I'm like, all right, I gotta if I'm gonna do this, I have to make sure I do it right. So that morning I like put it all together, and I was waiting for the university to open up so I could use their printer. I do not have a printer at home. I think printers can be so hard to maintain and to use, especially with like the ink cartridges and having paper on hand, and it's never like a good quality print. So the university I went to has a Weba printing. It's super, super easy. And I just go whenever I need to print something off. You don't have to have a student account or anything. And I just print things off. So they didn't open until 10. I was like, okay, like I cannot do anything until 10. I needed my dinner, 2 Truths and a Lie to be printed out. I needed the interesting facts to be printed out. I needed the flyers for the winter cozy weekend end to be printed to go into the bags. And I also needed the check-in list. So all the attendees like had to check in for the ticket that they purchased. So I had the time. I truly had the time to make the cozy gal weekend. I made all that, and it was about noon. By the time I finished with everything, making sure that I had the automations, making sure that everything was put together, and I was like, all right, like super simple. I'm going to head to town. I'm going to print this off. And then I needed to pick up balloons. And that was it. Like I felt really, really good about the planning process and making sure that I had enough time to do everything. I go get to print it off, and it took a little longer to print it off. I was having like email issues, having like low service in the building, which I've never had before. And like my phone not being able to accept the like Google alert, like, is this you logging in? Yes, it's me logging in. So I got that finished up, and I was thinking about going to the local grocery store to do the balloons. I went in there, and the balloons were like $3 a piece. And I was like, that's not what I want to pay. I want to pay like $1. And so I left there and I went to Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is not doing Mylar balloons. I'm sorry, they're not doing the plastic balloons. They only do the Mylar. And I'm like, don't want that either. So then I went to Walmart and got like a huge canister of helium. And I was like, all right, like I have this canister of helium. I'm going to have the balloons. That'll be perfect. I start my drive home, and I realize it's like 1:30. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually don't have that much time because the dinner starts at 4:30. I need to get to Kansas City by 4 to make sure that I have parking, to make sure I can greet people, to put my card on file for the supper, all the things, right? And as I am like driving home, I think to myself, oh my gosh, like I forgot Garrett had a baby shower. So one of our friends was hosting a baby shower, and I felt so bad because I'd already had this planned and things, but I was going to have to miss it. Well, Garrett was going to go. So Garrett wasn't going to have time to help me like put the boxes into my vehicle, wasn't going to help me with any of like that prep. He was going to the baby shower for like an hour, and then he was going to head to Kansas City and help me with the actual setup. But again, we could not get into the venue until 5 p.m. So it doesn't matter how early I get to Kansas City. It's 5 p.m. is the opening time, and it's 5 to 6. It's the hour that I have to like set everything up. So I get to my road. I call my little brother. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he was checking cows. And I said, listen, if you have even a moment of time, I would really appreciate it if you could come to my house and help me like with a couple things, because I had printed out all of these flyers about my winter gal weekend. And of course, like I had the bag stuffed. I had the sponsors that I reached out to, like, and a couple that were actually coming to it, a couple that had just like sent items. I had already stuffed all 50 bags with those items, but I didn't think about my own little pamphlet, like my own like weekend that I wanted to put details in the bags for. So I was like, shoot, I also have the balloons. I also need to pack everything in my vehicle, from my backdrop to the balloons. Like, do they need to be blown up to all of the bags? All 50 bags had to go into my vehicle. I also had curtains that were going on the backdrop. Like, tons of things that needed to go into my vehicle, and like many hands make light work. So called Brody over, and I also need to still take a shower. So in hindsight, I should have had the website things done for the Winter Girl or the Cozy Gal weekend, but my entire thing was I had a scarcity mindset. I was so scared to make the purchase for the Vrbo that what if it actually didn't happen? What if I couldn't get things together? What if my website didn't work? And just having the scarcity mindset that like nobody would want to come to this weekend, because when you plan events, essentially like you're making an investment in that day. So for me, I was like, all right, like whatever I prepay for an event, I have to tell myself that I'm going to be able to sell it out. I'm able to book it. I'm able to pay for it. And with like the gala, having expenses for that, most of it was already paid off. I had like the VIP meal. That's fine. Like I already accounted for all of that, but essentially I'm starting at zero. Like this was my hump. This was the thing that I had to get over, the hill that I had to climb. And I essentially done it. Like I made a profit. I sold out. I had sponsors. I did all the things. And so this was also the day of the event. Like I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I did it, but can I do it again? Like just thinking that maybe I wasn't as connective or as kind, or as like, if people like this was make or break. Like if the event wasn't good, people wouldn't want to come to the next one, right? Like you're only as good as your last thing, right? No matter what accomplishment, no matter what success you've had, like you're only as good as your last thing. And if you're not working to the next one, then what you've done in the past is pointless, right? Like if you're in sales, like you're always thinking, okay, like, yeah, last month I reached my quota, last month I did my thing, but this month I have to do just the same, right? Or more or better. And so I was like hemming and hawing if I actually wanted to do it, if I was going to have time to do it. I ended up getting it together, completing it. So in hindsight, I should have done that before. And then I should have gotten ready in my midday. And then I would have had more time, but it was fine. Brody came over, helped me stuff the bags. He had his friend Brock come. And so they were doing the bags. We blowed up the balloons. I hopped in the shower. It was fine. I left on time, which was great. So I get to Kansas City, and I have my gals coming in. I was so happy to see Madison and Alexis. It was so funny. As I was driving there, I got a call from Madison. I was in the Starbucks line. I was like, I am getting Starbucks. Do you want something? Because Madison and I used to work together. And so we love coffee. I know that she loves coffee, and she's like, actually, yeah. And so it felt like in the past, we haven't worked together for almost 2 years now, which is insane. Sometimes like your friends of convenience can turn into a deeper friendship, right? And so with Madison, I was like, oh gosh, like, what kind of coffee do you want? Picked her up coffee. And then, I was driving, we were like chatting about the event and chatting about what she was going to be doing, which like handling the VIP dinner and then checking people in, right? And I was talking, and then I got a phone call from my friend Chelsea, and Chelsea's like, I'm on my way to the VIP dinner. She's one of my good friends, and she's like, is there parking? And so I talked to her about that, and then I called Alexis, my other helper. I was like, hey Alexis, like gave her the rundown, right? And as I'm talking to these people, I start to relax a little bit. And I think to myself, these are people whom I love so much, who have gone to all my other events, and like, this is going to be great. Like, this is going to be so good. I have nothing to worry about. and I got to the dinner and people start coming in. It was a really lovely spot, Senorita Margarita in Kansas City. The hostess, the general manager, is the kindest, most sweetest person. She had us set up in a private room. It was beautiful. It was stunning. And we had our dinner. So I had 30 minutes before, like, I was supposed to head to the venue, which was right next door. I planned this out perfectly. So Garrett calls me and he's almost there. It's almost 5. I said, perfection. He found parking. And then, which I'm so grateful, Garrett was able to also help, because if seriously, like, I am so proud of myself for actually asking for help when I needed it, because there were so many times where I've said, nope, I can do it myself, or I didn't allow someone to help me to do the things, like, I thought I could do it on my own. And this was the first time that I allowed other people to help me, and it was really, really nice, and I felt like I got to enjoy the evening. So Garrett came and helped. We opened the door right at 5, opened the venue, and I got the speaker set up. One of my sponsors got there, Forever Young and Leewood. Huge thank you to Allie and Barry. They did a fabulous job, so amazing, and the girls enjoyed getting their lip flips and their Botox. It was awesome. But so Garrett and I were helping set up, and we were getting tables and things, and setting up the backdrop. And I had exactly the right amount of time. Like, I needed 1 hour. I got it completed. I got it done. It was pretty simple setup. Like, the tables were already arranged where they needed to be arranged. I just needed to unload all of our stuff. Like, I needed to unload all 50 gift bags, which was the hardest thing, because gift bags, you want them to look nice. You don't want them to look crumpled. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have put the tissue paper in there until I got to the venue, because we spent so much time trying to, like, refluff it up that it wasn't even worth it. I wish I would have just had the bags filled and then put the tissue paper in afterwards. I think that would have been way easier. The balloons that I got were like bigger balloons, because I wanted them to, like, look really full, look really luscious. And the helium canister that I had was prepped for, like, the nozzle is for smaller balloons. So you really had to, like, hold on and fill it up. Well, I think that I didn't fill up the balloons as much, because there was a couple that the balloon was, like, heavier than the helium. And so it, like, sunk to the ground. So there are, like, a couple things that I definitely would have done differently, but just having people in my corner helping me, like having Madison, having Alexis, like being able to stand outside and line the girls up, and having Garrett, like, being able to handle the back table. And then I had one of my very good friends, she started coming to the meetups. She has Royal Bee Studio Photography, and she was able to take photos throughout the entire night. And Andrea was able to, like, compile all of those photos, upload them to a drive. So I didn't have to worry about capturing the moment. I didn't have to worry about taking photos. I didn't have to worry about making sure that I was talking and visiting with people, but also, like, managing behind the scenes, because when we first got there, the caterer, like, used the restroom and it wouldn't flush. So I then had to call the venue gal. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry, but, like, the toilet is not flushing. Luckily, she was at the Margarita, Senorita Margarita, having supper, and so she came right over, fixed the toilet, thank goodness. But like, I was having to worry about things behind the scenes, and so being able to have people who were there able to help me when I needed it or had a specific job, like, that was so impactful and good for me, because then I was able to just be in my element and talk to people and, greet them and have that fun that I felt like I wasn't in the same mindset when I was throwing the biggest event I've ever had, which was my wedding, right? That's the only thing I can compare it to. And I just hope, like, these all are stepping stones to, like, the bigger thing, and, making sure that I know what I need, because essentially, like, you only know what you know, right? And you sometimes, the big thing to you, this is what I kept having to remind myself, like, we have done hard things in the past that now is not as hard. Like, when you try something new for the very first time, it's hard because you lack the knowledge and you lack the experience of being able to execute it in a way, or you just have a lack of knowing. Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that the Golden Hour Drip podcast has a monthly newsletter. You'll find podcast updates, upcoming events and information, and bonus content. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes and join today. Now, back to the show. So when I think of my events, I think to myself, okay, like this might be the first time I ever host a big event like this, right? Like 50 attendees. To me, that was a lot because I hadn't done 50 attendees before. I hadn't had this price point of a ticket price yet. Like there were so many things at this event that I haven't done in the past, and to keep myself like centered and to keep myself from like freaking out, I just thought, a year from now you will look back and you will think, oh my gosh, like I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, because if I wouldn't have done that, then I wouldn't have been able to grow and mature into the event host that I am today. And so it's having that vision, and it's to look like this might seem like a big deal now, but in the future, it's not going to feel like a big deal. When I think back to my very, very first event, I was so happy. I did a dinner. I did a little dinner. It didn't cost anything. They could just come. It was 7 people, and I wanted to make sure that I could get content. Like that was the only thing. Like I wanted people to come so I could take photos, post it on my Instagram that I was doing little meetups. And then I had a thankful for the gals, and I had sponsored, or I had vendors at this one, not sponsors, but just people I had convinced to come and pop up at my meetup. So I had a boutique there. I had a acupuncturist there. I had someone doing facials. Like it was small for sure. The people who I had convinced to come, I had tooth gems, like the people I had coming were small like me, right? Like we were growing businesses. We were looking for collaboration essentially, right? And I didn't hardly have a following. I think I had 100 people. I was so excited following my Instagram page. And I had a goal of 25 at $20. And I didn't quite hit 25, but it just got me in the mindset of people like paying for a ticket to come. I also gave like several free tickets. Like I just wanted it to be a success. And I remember just like asking people and trying so hard to get people to come, and it felt like the hardest thing in the world. And now I look back and like things are a little bit easier. Like I have developed relationships with people. I have the experience. I have something to show for it. Like I haven't been doing this it's been over a year. Like I have some credibility, and I think, okay, like this past year, like was great, but I'm also looking to the future and like what I want to do next year or the next event, and how I'm going to expand the experience and do other things. And this episode is going out on November 11th. Okay. November 11th, 11/11. And I remember as a kid, like you would say 11/11, make a wish, right? Or like Snapchat was a huge deal when I was in high school. It just came out. And you would want to like try and snap your friends or the people that you liked at 11/11. And then it had this thing where you could swipe to the time, and then it would show like 11/11. So you could be like 11/11, make a wish. Like it was, like everybody did it. It was fun. Right. And 11/11 is so special. Right. And they always say that at that time, they say make a wish because it's your asking something from God, you're asking something from the universe. And when you put an expectation out for yourself, your mind immediately starts to align itself with that thing. So you are, in so many ways, attracting what you're after. So if you are putting out ideas for yourself, you are putting down goals, you are working towards them daily, like you are going to become the person that you need to be in order to attract or align yourself with those things. And so for me, last year, thinking about the gala and thinking about, okay, I might not be where I want to be or as connective as I know I'm going to be, but I just need to focus and have the mindset that I'm already there. Have the mindset that I am experiencing success, right? And like celebrating those small and big victories for what they are. Because like I said, in years from now, you're going to think, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, or that was easier, or even you can be proud of a moment where you're like, that actually was really, really hard. And I'm so glad that I came out on top. I'm so glad that I persevered. Whatever I'm handling right now in front of me seems hard, but it's not as hard as that one thing that I did. And when you think about what you're working for, when you're thinking about your dreams, when you're thinking about the things that you want in your life, you can think about them all day long. But if you don't have action behind them, that's where things like will not have alignment. So for me, as I've reached the crest of my big event for the year, I know that winter has always been such a awesome period for me. I feel like I really get to dial down and focus in on my goals because I have the mindset that January is around the corner and I want to set myself up for a good, successful new year, right? And so I start working on my goals a little bit earlier. And like, I set it up to where I was not going to be having like a huge, big event, in the thick of the holiday things, because I do love holidays. I love spending time with my family. I love being present. And so I know even though the next month and a half is going to be more relaxed on the actual deliverables I have to do, I know the next month and a half is going to be more work on my mindset, more work on implementing goals and routines now so that when January rolls around, like it's easier, and just really focusing on that next version, that next level of myself. And for myself, I am just constantly putting myself in a state of thinking about the success that I will have and making what I'm going through like more minimized on like, this will be easy in the future. Like you're practicing the person you want to be, you're building that muscle, you're building that, that growth mindset, honestly. And when I look to the future and what I want to be doing or how I want to be acting, like it all boils down to the day to day, right? Like what are you doing day to day? Whatever that is, whatever your schedule is looking like, right? Like whatever your schedule has, that is where you'll be in the next 5 years. They always say like, show me your calendar and I'll show you your future. And so for myself, I'm thinking, okay, like I have my life back because the gala took so much energy, so much time. Now I have time back. I have the focus is still on meetups and things. I already have my December meetups planned. I have my January retreat planned. But essentially like we are smooth sailing, baby. Like we are going to be focused on more of working on the business instead of working in the business, and working on me as a person instead of just like doing the day to day. It's bigger thinking things. It's higher level, so that I can look at all the areas from a bird's eye view instead of just like a 2D view. I don't know, like being in it, right? So I am so proud of the Golden Gala and proud of everything that I accomplished, that I did. But now I'm fully leaning into the winter arc. I am fully leaning into doing things for me that will make me level up into the next version that I want to be. And that includes so much of like the Golden Gal Network, so much of the podcast, so much of like me, Logan Lee Miller, and the things that I am wanting to do. So in some ways, I'm so grateful that that day was over. Like, it was the mindset of, okay, like everything is in place. We have so much done, and now we just have to do it. And I will tell you, the first hour and a half, I was like still in the mode of like, all right, got to get this done, got to make sure it's perfect. And then as soon as that second half of the event, I was like, oh, I can relax now. Oh, everyone's having fun now. Oh, like people are connecting deeper, and so like they're more they're not as nervous, and just the energy of the room was awesome. So I'm like so proud, so happy. And I like November, December, I have so many things going on, like family wise. We're going to Austin for my sister-in-law's bachelorette, so we'll have that, and then we have Thanksgiving, and then December will be here, right? Like, so it's so many things, and I want to make it so clear to myself that these events, these like family things, right? Like holidays are so fun, so exciting. But just like Ed Milet says, like a holiday is a day. It's not a whole month. And just keeping the mindset of there's so many other days besides on, what day is Thanksgiving this year? The 27th? I don't know. It's always a Thursday at the end of the month. I also think it's later this year. So like it's a holiday. It's one day of the month. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for me, it's 2 days, right? Like you have Christmas Eve, you have Christmas Day. My Christmas gonna be a little wild because we also have my sister-in-law's wedding the week of Christmas. So like it will look different this year. But look, like thinking about that, and when you have things that disrupt your routine, they are so fun, right? Like I cannot wait to go to Austin. It's going to be warm. It's going to be toasty. I love Austin, Texas. Like that's a great place to be. But I know it's going to throw me off my routine. I know that come Sunday when my flight gets in at like so late at night, I will be like, oh gosh, like it's late. I'm tired. Like Monday might be a little harder for me. So having the intention that I'm still going to try and stick to my routine as much as possible when your life is interrupted by events while they could be good, like a family holiday, like a gala. I know that it disrupted my routine in so many ways, and there's so much power in declining things and events. Not saying that you should bail on your friends, but sometimes like when there's an ask, maybe from a foundation or some of the volunteer things that I have, I really have to put in the mindset of, am I spreading myself out too thin? Am I trying to do too much? Because when I am going to fun things, when I'm going to fun events, when I'm, making myself of service to others, it takes away from the other things I should be working on. It's taking away from my routine. And so I really have to weigh in, like, do I say yes to this thing because it's fun, because it's a great opportunity, because it'll be an awesome experience? Or do I say no? Because if I say no, then it keeps me on track. Then I can go to bed at a reasonable time. So then I can wake up when I'm supposed to. So I can go for my walk. So I can get my steps. So I can go to the gym. So that I can drink plenty of water, just be a functioning human being, right? And events and things will throw you off your schedule. They will throw you off your game. And you can either throw the towel in and just say, oh, like, I'm not going to make it. It's not going to work out how I planned, or I'll just wait until the next year. Like, that's not the mindset that I want to be in. Again, I want to be building upon each one of my experiences and taking that knowledge to apply it to the next one. So when I think of my November and my December and January, even like winter is such a formative season to not plant the seeds, but essentially planting the seeds because they need to sprout come spring. I love, love, love that, that point of view that I forget who said it, and he's so big. Tony Robbins said that. I was listening to one of his things years ago, and he was like, winter, you are planting your seeds. Summer or spring, that's when things start to bloom. They start to sprout. Summer, that's when you got to water it. You got to work really hard. You got to make sure that they flourish. And then fall, you get to reap the benefit. You get to have your harvest. You get to really settle into that excitement. And then winter, you're back to your planning period. You're back to trying to set it up for the next spring. And that's how I feel. I'm like, every good thing that I have going, it's because I've taken months to plan, not necessarily like the thinking part, because I think there is so much power in being decisive and being able to like launch and adapt instead of just like thinking about it. When I think about my podcast, there was some months and months. I waited like over a year to actually launch my podcast. I kept thinking, oh, like that's so good. Like such a good idea. I wish I wish I had the confidence. I wish I could do it. And then like thinking back to, oh gosh, like I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to have all of this like sorted out. And I cringe at my previous episodes. Like I cringe and think, oh gosh, like that's what I said. That's what I put out. And even now, like I know that what I'm saying, I might cringe at, or things might be different, or how I'm speaking, or my pattern, or whatever. Like you are always going to be like a little bit embarrassed. And if you're not a little bit of embarrassed, you didn't start soon enough. You didn't try to like work out the kinks, because the only way that you're able to do it is if you actually start trying now, and you can build upon it. So if I would have waited to have my first meetup, if I would have waited until, you know, I had 200 followers or 300, 400, like thinking I was too small, like I have 800 followers on Instagram and I was still reaching out to sponsors. Like my email list is like under 300 people and I was still reaching out to sponsors. Like there is so much power in trying even at any stage that you're in. So I know that the stage that I'm in now is not final boss level, right? Like it's not the top of the top, but there's no way for me to like grow into that level if I don't start working on it right now. And so I'm heavily leaning into the winter arc. And I know that's the terminology now. I know that so many people are like, winter arc this, it's same as like hot girl walk. Like they're really leaning into it. But for me, I've always used winter as a planning period. I've always used it as like a reset button to recalibrate. I love January. I love the start of things. I love Mondays. I love, you know, the start of the month, the first day of the month. Like all of those are so good for me. I just think it's a blast, right? Like being able to clear the page, but you're never actually starting from zero. You're always starting from experience. So even if it is the first day of the month, even if it is the first of the month or the first of the year, whatever, you are still starting from experience. You still can build upon the things that you have learned and apply it to the next thing. So that's what I'm doing. And definitely like looking, at like how my patterns have been broken in the past, like, or my routines. And it all boils down to literally like I agreed to do something that didn't align with my schedule and took me out of my routine. And then it's so hard. Like when you're going after it, like when you're doing something every single day, it's easy to keep doing it because you're like, oh, I did it yesterday. But if you take a break, say you take a week off, you're like, oh, I took a week off. Like now it's so hard for me to like get back into it because I'm out of my routine, or a month off or a year off, or however long you've been procrastinating starting or picking up something. It's like, okay, now that I've set this down, it's really hard to get back into it because you have to get back into the mindset. You have to get back into the swing of things. And I just want to avoid that. I want my winter to be awesome. I want to have the time to play and experience and hang out with my family. But I also want to make sure that January me doesn't get super, super overwhelmed. I want to make sure that next year, you know, I have built my community even stronger. I've done things that really aligns us all and is focused on the community and focused on, you know, making those connections. So I, in so many ways, am so happy that the gala is over, that I can put that in my book of good job, got it completed, but also like using it as a stepping stone and thinking, okay, like this went great. I can't wait for the next thing. I can't wait to build upon it. I can't wait to do something even better, even greater. And that makes it really, really cool because there's always growth to go after. And there's always, a better version of yourself. And for me, especially like posting this on November 11th, I think it's a great reminder that you can wish for anything. You can write a list of everything that you want your life to be, and you can achieve it. You can have it. You just have to start aligning yourself. You just have to start like putting in the work. And as I've learned, like from getting my haircut, like things move quickly. Okay. Like the time will pass no matter what. Like it's going to pass, and you can either be very, very proud of yourself, or you can be in the same spot where you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I wish I started months ago, but now I feel like it's harder to do. It's never too late. It's never, the wrong time. Well, it's like people always say, oh, it's the wrong time. It's the wrong time. Listen, there's never a perfect time. It's always going to be the wrong time. But truly, there is no wrong time. Like you should pursue it if it is on your heart and if you want to do it. And I like to think of November and December as trial runs. Like this is your trial, baby. Like you can see if things are going to be achievable, if you actually want to accomplish them or do them. For me, I'm like, all right, what kind of fun do I want to do? What do I want to experience this winter so that when I'm going into the new year, I'm like, all right, like, what are we going to do? How is it going to play out? And like, I'm not getting caught up in too many holidays and like taking a lot of time off for that, but instead, like when it's time to rest, it's restful. And like being able to balance out the holidays and also like getting what needs to be done and using my time to my advantage instead of just like, oh, I'm going to scroll on my phone, or I'm going to do an activity that's just like busy work. It's not actually like productive, good work. It just makes me feel good. I can pat myself on the back like, oh, you're doing some effort. You're doing a good job. And in reality, it's not the same. So I am so thankful for the gala. There's only like really nothing. Everything went great. But there's so many learning things, right? Like I've journaled a little bit and I like wrote everything down. I was like, okay, this went wrong. Like we need to change this for the future, or this is, didn't work out how I envisioned. And then when I'm planning for my next thing, I never have the intention, like all these things are going to go wrong. Right. I just have the intention that's going to be successful. So for my gala, I was like, it's going to be successful. It's going to be so good. I'm going to have so many people there. It's going to be a blast, right? Like I never had the intention of, oh, it's going to be smaller than I think, or, oh, it's going to be like not as good, or, oh, like things aren't going to work out, or, oh, the lights won't turn on. Like I never had the mindset that it was going to be bad. I always had the mindset it's going to be successful. It's going to be good. I walked my brain through like the night and how it was going to be good. And it's practicing the success before you have it. And so for my next event, when I'm planning it, I'm not thinking, oh, like what could go wrong? I'm going to take the things that didn't go as well as I wanted from the previous event and apply it for the next one. Like my MailChimp and Wix automations and emails that got sent out, right? Like I know what to do better for the future, but I'm not going to allow it to like hold me back from planning the next event, if that makes sense. So I'm so proud of the Golden Gals. I'm so proud of the community that we have built. I'm so thankful for the sponsors. I'm so thankful for the people that I've worked with in the past year, right? Like having their business space like available so that we can host a meetup, or having people who constantly and continually come to my meetups, come to connect, come to chat and talk. Like it makes me so grateful and so happy. And I wouldn't be able to do it without them at all. And in so many ways, it makes me so appreciative, and it makes me feel so loved, especially like the group me. Like we have a little group me with the gallon, and people, I said, make sure that you drop your phone number in the chat so that people can connect to you, because the meetups is just like the start of a friendship. This is to break the ice. This is to introduce you to people that you've never met before. And so then you can build a connection outside, or, you do go to a couple meetups with them, but essentially you're building the connection to grow outside of the meetups, right? And that's what makes me the most happy, because you have your friends that you meet, and then you get to decide, like, do I want this person in my life forever? Do I want to meet up with them for coffee once a week? Do I go to my favorite yoga studio with them constantly, right? Like it's a seed. Like I just always think of what I'm doing right now for my meetups, for my gala, for my events. Like these are seeds that I'm trying to plant so that it grows, and looking towards the future and looking to the next thing. It's winter. It literally is. We are in the winter. This is the time to be planning. This is the time to be in your winter arc. This is the time to be putting forth the effort. And I don't mean like just making these huge elaborate plans, but like start trial and erroring, like try doing a couple things, try putting it together so that when it is game time, when it's January 1, or when you think, oh, I actually, I need to focus on this because now there's a bigger pain point. Maybe it's the job that you're at and you need to make more money. Maybe it's your health, or where you live, or the relationships that you have. Like this is your trial period. This is the time where you're allowed to audit what has been going on in the past year. And something that I love to do is around the end of December, everybody is focused on their goals. They're like, I got to start going to the gym. I got to start eating healthy. I got to start looking for another job. And I don't want to be caught up in what everybody else is doing. And I don't want to be stressed. I feel like everything done last minute is so stressful. I want to be planned accordingly. I want to have my plan set before January. I don't want to be in the mindset of scarcity where it's like, oh, I have to get this done. I have to try so hard. Other people are doing stuff and I got to do stuff, and cramming it all into 5 days after Christmas. Like for me, December 25th, and then we have 5 days until the first of the year. Like that is not enough time to actually start having more of a routine. And I don't mean like using November, your second half of November and December to just do all the planning parts, right? Like, oh, I have to plan this. I got to plan this. I got to have a schedule. I got to have, what I'm going to do starting January 1. No, I mean like if your goal is to walk more, go on walks today. Like go for a walk right now. And just having that tough love with yourself of, we don't have to wait for a perfect opportunity, although they are so nice. I love the first of a year, but we can use today, we can use right now as an opportunity to start trying it out, to start getting our steps in, to not wait until tomorrow, but instead figure out how we can do it today, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's for 10, 15, not the full enchilada, everything. It's just a little bit, because then you can grow upon it. Then you can actually build out your winter arc. Then you can have the plans come into fruition where come January 1, you're like, I've already have a month and a half underneath my belt. I already did the hard stuff. What do they say? It's like, it's more than 2 months, I think, it's more than 21 days to build a habit, I believe. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. I don't know. But like, if you think about habit building and how long it takes for your brain to actually compute that this is a habit, this is automation, this is something that we just do, you can have a month and a half over if you had just started January 1. So use your November, use your December wisely. I know I am, especially after this Golden Gala. If you're in the Kansas City area looking for friends, give us a follow at Golden Gal Network on Instagram. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Please like, subscribe, all of the things. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.